3 years had passed since humanity vanished and the galaxy was dying. Not literally, of course. The stars still burned, planets still orbited, ships still traveled between systems. But something essential had broken when humanity left, and nobody had realized how much they depended on the humans until they were gone. Investigator Bora stood in what used to be the human quarter of Nexus 9, the largest trading station in Council space. The corridors were dark now. Half the systems didn't work anymore. The translation algorithms that allowed 73 species to communicate clearly had started glitching 6 months ago. Nobody could fix them because the humans who designed them were gone, and they'd taken all their technical documentation with them. Another medical facility shut down on Kepler 7, her assistant reported, a small furry creature named Pix who barely came up to Bora's waist. That's the 15th this month. They can't maintain the human diagnostic equipment. Bora nodded slowly. She'd expected this. Humanity had spent 3 centuries integrating themselves into every aspect of galactic society. They'd built better hospitals, designed smarter computers, created more efficient farms. Species across the galaxy had adopted human technology because it worked better than anything else. Now that technology was failing, and nobody knew how to fix it. What about the dimensional drive research? Bora asked. Has the science team made any progress? Pix's ears drooped. No. The humans corrupted all their research files before leaving. Every equation, every blueprint, every test result, all gone. We're trying to reverse engineer from the dimensional signatures we detected. But it's like trying to rebuild a house from a photograph of smoke. Bora walked through the abandoned human sector, her footsteps echoing. The shop still had merchandise on the shelves. Restaurants still had tables set for customers who would never arrive. It was like everyone had simply stood up one day and walked away from their lives, which was exactly what happened. On the far side of the station, in a neighborhood that officially didn't exist on any maps, Captain Sang-min sat in a small apartment watching the news feeds. He was technically dead, killed 3 years ago in a shuttle accident near Jupiter. At least that's what the record said. In reality, he was one of 2,000 humans who stayed behind when everyone else left. Volunteers who gave up their chance at a new life to make sure the Council could never threaten humanity again. His communication device buzzed. A simple message appeared. Target confirmed, ready? Sang-min responded with a single word. Go. Across the galaxy in a Council research facility on the planet Xerxes 3, Engineer Da-Yoon worked late into the night shift. She was also officially dead, lost in a mining accident. She was also very much alive and very good at sabotage. The Council scientists at Xerxes 3 were getting close to understanding the basic principles of dimensional travel. Not close enough to build their own drives, but close enough to be dangerous. Close enough that they might be able to track where humanity went. Da-Yoon couldn't allow that. She entered the main laboratory using stolen credentials. The night shift was always thin, just a few researchers checking data while the main team slept. She moved quietly through the facility, her heart pounding but her hands steady. The dimensional prototype sat in the center of the lab, a strange twisting shape that hurt to look at directly. Council scientists had spent 2 years building it. They planned to activate it tomorrow for the first time. They wouldn't get the chance. Da-Yoon planted the device carefully, a small piece of human technology that would overload the prototype's power core. Not enough to cause an explosion, just enough to fry every circuit and melt every component into useless slag. It would look like a failure of their own design. She was back in her apartment before the device activated. She heard the alarms from across the city, saw the emergency vehicles rushing toward the research facility. By morning, 3 years of work would be reduced to scrap metal. Sang-min received the confirmation message and allowed himself a small smile. That was the 7th sabotage mission this month. The Council was trying desperately to recreate human technology, and humans were working just as hard to stop them. But sabotage was only part of the mission. The other part was watching the galaxy tear itself apart. Investigator Bora discovered the pattern by accident. She was reviewing trade data, trying to understand the economic collapse when she noticed something strange. Before humanity left, there were almost no armed conflicts between Council species. Disputes were settled through negotiation, usually with human mediators helping to find compromise. After humanity left, everything changed. It started small. Border disputes, trade disagreements, arguments over resources. Without human diplomats to mediate, these conflicts escalated. Species that had been friends for centuries suddenly found themselves on the brink of war. Then warlord Thexun made his move. Thexun was from a warrior species called the Krathi. They'd been members of the Council for 1,000 years, but they'd always chafed under the Council's peaceful policies. With humanity gone and the Council weakened, Thexun saw his opportunity. He seized control of 3 star systems in a single brutal week. The Council sent ships to stop him, but half of those ships defected to his side. They were tired of the Council's weakness, tired of rules that protected the weak. They wanted strength, and Thexun promised to deliver it. Within months, a quarter of Council space was in open rebellion. Bora reported directly to High Arbiter Kolmesh now. The Council chambers were half empty these days. Many species had withdrawn to defend their own territories. The Grand Alliance of 73 species was fracturing into hundreds of small factions. "We must find the humans," Kolmesh said. His crystalline body pulsed with stress fractures. "They're the key to stopping this. If we can bring them back, if we can restore their technology—" "They don't want to be found," Bora interrupted. She was too tired to be polite anymore. "And can you blame them? We voted to exterminate them. Why would they ever come back?" "Then we're lost," Bora thought about that. Maybe they were. Maybe the galaxy deserved what was happening. They'd rejected humanity because humans were too ambitious, too creative, too unwilling to accept limits. Now they were learning that those same qualities were what held civilization together. She spent another year searching anyway. It was her job. She tracked every lead, followed every rumor, analyzed every scrap of data about humanity's departure. Finally, she found something. An automated sensor station in the Epsilon Void had recorded a single human colony ship passing through 40 months ago. The ship had been heading toward intergalactic space, toward the vast darkness between galaxies. The ship's trajectory pointed toward Andromeda, 2.5 million light-years away, impossible to reach with conventional drives. It would take hundreds of thousands of years to make that journey, unless you had dimensional drives. Then you could be there in months. Bora filed her final report. "Humanity has left the galaxy entirely. They're beyond our reach. Recommend we stop all search efforts and focus on internal stability." Kolmesh read the report in silence. Then he asked the question Bora had been dreading. "What happens to us now?" Bora looked at the tactical display showing the spreading chaos. Warlord Thexun's forces controlled 1/3 of Council space now. Trade had collapsed. Medical systems were failing. Translation errors were causing diplomatic incidents. The galaxy was sliding toward a dark age. "I don't know," she admitted. "But whatever happens next, we did this to ourselves." The first galactic civil war in 8,000 years had begun, and it was all because the Council had pushed the button too late to stop humanity from leaving. In his hidden apartment, Captain Sangmin received new orders from beyond the galaxy. They were simple: protect the innocent, document everything, and wait. Humanity would return someday. But not to save a council that tried to destroy them. They would return to help the species who remained kind even when the galaxy fell apart. The wait had just begun. The chamber was silent as death itself. 73 species stood in their designated platforms, each representative watching the holographic display at the center of the massive crystalline structure. The numbers glowed in harsh red light. 71 votes in favor, 2 against. The decision was final. Ambassador Jiwoo felt her hands trembling. She gripped the edge of her platform harder, knuckles turning white. Around her, the alien representatives were already turning away, their duty done. None of them would meet her eyes. Cowards, she thought. Every single one of them. High Arbiter Kolmesh's voice echoed through the chamber, each word like ice water down her spine. The motion passes. Humanity is hereby designated a galactic threat. Quarantine protocols will begin immediately. Sterilization of all human colonies and installations is authorized. "You're making a mistake," Jiwoo said. Her voice cracked despite her efforts to stay calm. "We're not building weapons. The dimensional drives are for exploration only. We want to go beyond the rim to places none of you have ever—" Silence. Kolmesh's crystalline body pulsed with angry light. "We have heard enough human lies. Your species has advanced too quickly. 300 years ago, you were splitting atoms and poisoning your own planet. Now you dare to break the fundamental laws that keep this universe stable? We will not permit it." Counselor Vexthar clicked his mandibles together in what Jiwoo had learned was satisfaction. The insectoid creature leaned forward on his platform. Humans are dangerous, ambitious. They do not respect the old ways. Better to end this problem now before they threaten us all. Jiwoo wanted to scream at them. She wanted to tell them that humanity had worked so hard to earn their place among the stars, that every colony they built was a testament to cooperation, not conquest. That the dimensional technology was meant to take humans far away, not to threaten anyone. But she knew it wouldn't matter. The Council had decided humanity's fate before this vote ever happened. 50 warships were already moving into position around human space. Jiwoo could see them on the tactical display, red dots converging on the blue markers that represented Earth and her colonies. She had maybe 6 hours before the first ships arrived at Mars Station, maybe 8 before they reached Earth itself. She thought of her daughter back home. Little Soo-jin would be in school right now, learning about the stars and dreaming of the day she might visit them. Would there even be a home to go back to? Jiwoo activated her emergency communicator, the one reserved for the worst possible scenarios. This is Ambassador Jiwoo to all human territories. Code Black, I repeat, Code Black. They voted for sterilization. You have less than 8 hours. The response came faster than she expected. Admiral Taehyun's face appeared on her private screen, calm despite the death sentence that had just been pronounced. Understood, Ambassador. Protocol Exodus is now active. Exodus? Jiwoo felt confused. What is Protocol Exodus? Something we hoped we'd never need. Taehyun's expression was grim but determined. We've been preparing for this possibility for 50 years. Since the moment we realized the Council would never truly accept us as equals. What are you talking about? The dimensional drives aren't experimental, Jiwoo. They're operational. Have been for 3 years. Every human colony has been quietly building evacuation ships. We're leaving. Jiwoo felt the floor drop out from under her. Leaving? Where, how? Somewhere they can't follow. Somewhere we can build our own future. Taehyun glanced at something off-screen. The last transport leaves Earth in 5 hours. I'm sending a shuttle for you. Be ready. The connection ended before she could respond. Around her, the Council representatives were celebrating. They didn't know yet. They thought they'd won. 6 hours later, the Council's warships arrived at Mars Station to find it empty. Not destroyed, not defended, just empty. The massive orbital facility had been systematically dismantled. Every component packed away or destroyed. The colony domes on the Martian surface stood dark and silent. High Arbiter Kolmesh stared at the reports flooding in from every human territory. Earth's orbital rings were gone. The lunar cities were abandoned. The colony on Titan showed no life signs. The mining operations in the asteroid belt had vanished like morning fog. How is this possible? Counselor Vexthar's mandibles clattered in agitation. Where did they go? 3 billion humans don't just disappear. The tactical officer, a nervous 6-legged creature from Theta Prime, brought up long-range sensor data. Sir, we're detecting unusual dimensional signatures. Hundreds of them. All moving outward from human space at speeds that should be impossible. Follow them, Kolmesh ordered. Track every signature. We will find where they... Sir, the signatures just vanished. All of them. It's like they punched through reality itself and disappeared into somewhere else. A transmission began broadcasting on all frequencies. Admiral Taehyun appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device in Council space. His message was simple and devastating. People of the Galactic Council, you have taught us many things during our brief time among you. You taught us that the galaxy is cruel to those who are different, that advancement is seen as threat, and ambition as danger. You taught us that no matter how hard we worked or how much we contributed, we would always be outsiders, always be suspect. We learned these lessons well, so we're leaving. We're taking our technology, our dreams, and our future somewhere you cannot touch them, somewhere we can grow without fear of species who mistake caution for wisdom. Don't look for us. You won't find us. Don't try to follow. Your ships can't go where we're going. Maybe someday, when you've learned that cooperation is stronger than fear, we'll meet again. But that choice is yours to make. Goodbye, Galactic Council. We hope you find the peace you claim to protect. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other, demanding explanations, assigning blame. Some called for pursuit. Others called for investigation. High Arbiter Kolmesh stood silent, staring at the empty space where Earth's blue marker used to glow on the tactical display. He had ruled the council for 3,000 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had prevented wars and brokered peace, but he had never seen anything like this. Humanity hadn't fought back. They hadn't pleaded or negotiated. They had simply left, vanishing into the dark spaces between galaxies like ghosts fleeing the dawn. And in their absence, they had left a question that would haunt the council for decades to come. What happens to a galaxy when the species that held it together decides to leave? The answer would come soon enough, but not in any way the council expected. The button had been pressed too late. Humanity was already gone. 8 years after humanity vanished, Nexus 9 was no longer a trading station. It was a war zone. Soldier J1 pressed himself against a bulkhead as plasma fire scorched the air above his head. His tactical display showed 12 hostiles advancing down the corridor, cutting off the escape route for the refugees huddled in the station's old human quarter. "This is exactly why we stayed," muttered Private Dongwu, crouched beside him. The younger soldier checked his weapon's charge. "Everyone else gets to start fresh in a new galaxy, and we're stuck babysitting the species who wanted us dead." "Not all of them wanted us dead," J1 reminded him. He activated his communicator. "Mi-sun, we're pinned down in Corridor 7. How's the evac coming?" Mi-sun's voice crackled through, tense but controlled. "We've got about 200 refugees loaded, mostly Falari families. But Pirate King Dralvok's ships just showed up. He's demanding we surrender all humans in exchange for letting the refugees go." J1 cursed under his breath. Dralvok had been hunting humans for 5 years now, ever since the galaxy descended into chaos. The Pirate King was convinced that the humans who stayed behind knew the secrets of dimensional travel. He was wrong, of course. The humans who stayed were volunteers, soldiers and medics and engineers who gave up their chance at paradise to help the species that humanity had protected. They were called the Forgotten Ones. 2,000 humans scattered across the galaxy, working in secret to save whoever they could from the wars tearing civilization apart. "Tell Dralvok he can have us when we're dead," J1 said. "Dongwu, on my mark, we're going to provide covering fire. Mi-sun gets those refugees out no matter what." "Copy that, boss." J1 counted down from 3, then both humans rolled into the corridor with weapons blazing. The pirates weren't expecting resistance. 3 went down immediately. The others scattered for cover, giving the refugees precious seconds to run. Across the station, in what used to be a human hospital, scientist Yuna was documenting everything. Her laboratory was hidden behind false walls, accessible only through maintenance tunnels. She'd been there for 3 years, studying how the galaxy's species were changing under the pressure of constant warfare. The data was fascinating and horrifying. Several species were showing accelerated evolution. The Falari, normally peaceful herbivores, had developed aggressive tendencies and sharper teeth. The Krell, typically solitary, were forming tribal units for protection. War was changing them on a genetic level. Yuna recorded every change, knowing that someday this information might be the only record of what happened when the council fell. She'd given up her chance to see humanity's new home for this work. Some nights she wondered if it was worth it. Then she'd think about the Falari family she'd treated yesterday, the mother clutching her child while thanking Yuna for the medicine that saved the infant's life. Yes, it was worth it. Her communicator buzzed. It was Mi-sun with the emergency code. The convoy was under attack. Yuna grabbed her medical pack and ran. The refugee convoy consisted of 3 ships, old human transports that Mi-sun's network had salvaged and repaired. They were trying to reach the Sanctuary Zone, a region of space controlled by species who still believed in the old council's ideals of peace. It was a 3-day journey through hostile territory. They didn't make it 3 hours. Pirate King Dralvok's fleet dropped out of hyperspace right in their path, 15 warships against 3 unarmed transports. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre waiting to happen. "This is Dralvok to the human transports. I know you're there, little humans. I can smell your fear across the void." His voice was a wet, gurgling sound that made Mi-sun's skin crawl. "Give me the humans and their secrets, and I'll let the refugees live. Refuse, and I'll kill everyone." Mi-sun looked at the 200 faces staring at her with hope and fear. Falari families, Krell refugees, even a few Vryn children, orphaned when their colony was destroyed. All of them depending on her to save them. "This is Mi-sun. I'm the convoy leader. You want me, you'll have to come get me." Dralvok laughed. "Brave, stupid but brave. I accept your challenge." The pirate ships opened their docking bays. Boarding parties would be launching within minutes, but Mi-sun had planned for this. She'd been running refugee convoys for 6 years. She knew every trick, every tactic, every desperate gambit that might buy her people time to escape. Now, she whispered into her communicator. Jaewon's strike team had been hiding in the convoy ships all along, waiting for exactly this scenario. As the pirate boarding pods launched, the humans activated every weapon they'd smuggled aboard. Magnetic mines deployed from the transport's hulls. Concealed missile racks extended from cargo bays. The unarmed refugee ship suddenly bristled with firepower. The first wave of boarding pods exploded before reaching their targets. The pirate fleet reacted with confusion, their formation breaking as they tried to figure out what was happening. That confusion bought Mi-sun 30 seconds. That's all she needed. The transports engaged their hyperdrives and jumped to safety, following escape coordinates that changed with every convoy. By the time Dralbok realized he'd been tricked, the refugees were gone. But Jaewon's team was still on Nexus 9. The strike had been a diversion, and now they were trapped with an angry pirate king hunting them. Yuna reached the abandoned human quarter just as Dralbok's forces stormed the station. She found Jaewon and his team setting up a defensive position in the old market square, a wide-open space surrounded by empty shops and silent restaurants. "This is a terrible defensive position," Yuna observed, sliding into cover beside Jaewon. "It's the only position we've got." Jaewon reloaded his weapon. "Mi-sun and the refugees get away?" "Yes, thanks to you." Then it was worth it. The pirates came in waves. Jaewon's team held them off for 3 hours, fighting with the desperation of soldiers who knew they were protecting something more important than their own lives. Every minute they delayed Dralbok was another minute the refugees had to escape. When the ammunition ran low, they fought with improvised weapons. When those broke, they fought with their bare hands. The Forgotten Ones had sworn an oath to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, and they would keep that oath until their last breath. But they didn't die that day. Help came from an unexpected source. The station's maintenance workers, mostly Falari who remembered humanity's kindness, staged a coordinated revolt. They cut power to the sections where pirates were operating. They sealed doors and vented atmosphere in strategic locations. They fought back against Dralbok with tools and courage. The Pirate King retreated, furious but beaten. As his ships left the station, he transmitted one final message. "This isn't over, humans. I will find your people, I will take their secrets, and I will make you watch them die." Jaewon didn't bother responding. He was too busy helping Yuna treat the wounded Falari who'd saved their lives. That night, after the dead were honored and the wounded treated, Jaewon received a message on a frequency that hadn't been used in 8 years. The encryption was human, the delay suggesting it had been traveling for nearly a decade. The message was simple: coordinates to a location in intergalactic space, and an invitation. "For the Forgotten Ones, you have sacrificed enough. Come home, come find us. The galaxy made its choice, but you don't have to suffer for it. Follow these coordinates. We'll be waiting. Admiral Tae-hyun." Jaewon gathered his team and showed them the message. Dongwoo immediately wanted to leave. "We've done enough. Let's go join our people and leave this mess behind." But Mi-sun shook her head. "If we leave, who protects the refugees? Who helps the species that showed us kindness? We're the only thing standing between them and people like Dralbok." Yuna agreed. "Our people left to build a better future. We stayed to prove that humanity's ideals survive even in the darkest times. If we abandon that now, what was the point?" Jaewon looked at each of them, seeing the exhaustion but also the determination. They were tired. They were scared. But they were still human, still driven by the compassion that made humanity special. "We stay," he decided. "We keep helping. We keep fighting. And someday, when this galaxy is ready for peace again, we'll have been the ones who kept that dream alive." The team agreed. The Forgotten Ones would continue their work, protecting the innocent and preserving hope in a galaxy tearing itself apart. But Jaewon kept the coordinates. Someday, when their work was done, they would follow humanity home. Until then, they had a duty to the species who remembered that humans were more than their technology. They were the best hope the galaxy had left. The weapon's fire never reached the Eternal Hope. A shield appeared between Vokrath's warship and the refugee vessel. a wall of shimmering energy that absorbed the plasma bolts like water into sand. Then ships materialized from nowhere, dozens of sleek vessels appearing in perfect formation around the battered refugee ship. They were human ships, but unlike anything from the old Milky Way. These were built with technology 40 years more advanced, shaped by minds freed from council restrictions. They moved like living things, graceful and deadly. Commander Vokrath stared at his tactical display in shock. His single warship faced a fleet of 30 vessels, each one radiating power signatures that dwarfed his own. He'd expected to find scattered human refugees. Instead, he'd found a civilization that could crush the entire council fleet without effort. A transmission opened on all frequencies. The voice was old but still strong, carrying authority earned through decades of leadership. Commander Vokrath, this is Admiral Taehyun of the New Terran Federation. You have pursued innocent people across 2 million light-years. You have threatened those seeking sanctuary. Stand down or I will consider your actions an act of war. Vokrath's mandibles clicked with fury. You abandoned the galaxy. You ran away like cowards. I've come to deliver justice for your crimes. Justice? Taehyun's laugh was bitter. You voted to exterminate us for the crime of being ambitious. We left to survive. That's not cowardice. That's wisdom. The human fleet hadn't moved, but Vokrath could feel their weapons locked onto his ship. He was outmatched, outgunned, and 3 days from the nearest reinforcements that would never come. He powered down his weapons. Aboard the Eternal Hope, Navigator Dongha couldn't believe what he was seeing. Through the viewports, massive orbital structures filled the sky, Dyson swarms harvesting stellar energy, shipyards building vessels the size of cities, space stations that looked like works of art, and everywhere ships moving with purpose and confidence. Humanity hadn't just survived, they'd thrived. A shuttle approached from the nearest orbital platform. It docked with the Eternal Hope gently and the airlock cycled open. An old man stepped through, leaning on a cane but standing straight with dignity. Admiral Taehyun looked at the 200 exhausted faces staring at him. Humans who'd been children when the Exodus began, now middle-aged, aliens from a dozen species who'd given up everything to follow humanity into the unknown. Children born in the void who'd never seen a planet. Welcome, he said simply. Welcome home. Observer Rin started crying. She'd been born on the ship, 25 years old now, and seeing her first human who'd actually been to Earth. Around her, others wept too. Relief, joy, exhaustion, and hope all mixed together in tears. Over the next weeks, the followers were brought into New Terran space. They saw wonders they'd only dreamed about. Planets being terraformed into gardens, cities built with technology that seemed like magic. And everywhere, humans working alongside new alien species from Andromeda, building together as equals. President Hyojin met with the followers in the capital city of New Terra, a massive orbital habitat built around 3 suns. She was young for a president, only 50, representing a generation born in Andromeda who'd never seen the Milky Way. You brought us news of the old galaxy, Hyojin said, reading the reports the followers had compiled. The civil wars, the collapsing infrastructure, the millions dead from conflicts and failing technology. This is worse than we feared. Tashen stepped forward, her feathers trembling. Madam President, my people are dying from a plague that human medicine could cure. I came all this way to beg for help. Please. I know humanity doesn't owe us anything, but we'll help. Hyojin interrupted. Of course we'll help. That was never in question. Tashen collapsed in relief. Across the room, other followers from desperate species felt the same hope. Humanity would help. Despite everything the Council had done, humans would still help. But the question remained, how much help, and at what cost? The debate raged across New Terran space for months. Some argued humanity should stay isolated, let the old galaxy solve its own problems. Others insisted that helping was humanity's moral duty. The Federation was split down the middle. Admiral Taehyun, now 90 years old and living his final days, called for a constitutional assembly. Every human settlement sent representatives. The Andromedan species humanity had befriended sent observers. Even Commander Vokrath was allowed to attend, under guard and stripped of rank. The old admiral addressed the assembly with the weight of history in his voice. 43 years ago, the Galactic Council voted to destroy us. They feared our ambition, our refusal to accept limits, our determination to reach higher, so we left. We came here to build a society free from their fear and restrictions. We succeeded. Look at what we've built. Technology the Council said was impossible. Alliances with new species based on respect, not fear. A civilization that proves humanity's potential when we're free to pursue it. But here's the truth that the Council never understood. Our ambition was never about conquest. It was about possibility. We wanted to explore, to create, to help. The Council saw that as dangerous because they'd forgotten what civilization is supposed to be. Now the old galaxy is dying because they lost what we represented. Hope, innovation, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. We have a choice. We can stay here in safety, or we can return and show them what we've become, not as conquerors, not as saviors riding to rescue the helpless, but as equals ready to share what we've learned and help those ready to learn. The Council feared our ambition. Let's prove that our ambition was always about making the universe better for everyone. The Assembly voted 3 days later. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would return. Dr. Hana, now 87 and still researching despite her age, unveiled the key discovery. The new Terran Federation had perfected dimensional travel. They'd learned to stabilize the technology, making it safe enough to share without risking universal collapse. We can teach this to any species ready to use it responsibly, Hana explained to the Assembly. We can help rebuild the infrastructure that's failing. We can provide medical technology, agricultural systems, and diplomatic mediation, everything the galaxy lost when we left. But they wouldn't do it alone. The Andromedan species humanity had befriended over 40 years offered to help. They'd send ships, resources, and expertise. Together, they would return to the Milky Way not as one species, but as an alliance of civilizations united by cooperation. The humanitarian fleet began assembling. Hundreds of ships, human and Andromedan, loaded with medicine, technology, and hope. The journey back would take months even with dimensional drives, but they were ready. Ambassador Rin, the woman who'd been born in the void, was chosen to lead the diplomatic mission. She'd never seen the Milky Way, but she carried the hopes of 2 galaxies. Commander Vokrath watched the preparations with broken pride. He'd spent 15 years hunting humanity, convinced they were the galaxy's greatest threat. Instead, he'd found a civilization that put his own to shame. President Hyojin visited him in his quarters. You can return with us. Tell the Council what you've seen. Help them understand that cooperation is stronger than fear. Vokrath looked at the human leader, seeing wisdom that his own council had lacked. Why show mercy to someone who tried to destroy you? Because mercy is what makes civilization worth preserving, Hyojin replied. The Council tried to destroy us because they were afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things. But we're not afraid anymore. We're ready to help the galaxy heal. The fleet launched 3 months later, a armada of hope jumping toward home. Admiral Tae Hyun watched from his quarters on New Terra. He was too old to make the journey himself. His body was failing, kept alive only by medical technology, but his spirit soared as he watched the ships disappear into dimensional space. Observer Rin stood beside him, holding the old man's hand. Will they accept our help? She asked. Some will, others won't, but that's not what matters. Tae Hyun smiled, looking at the young woman who represented everything humanity had become. What matters is that we tried. The Council said we were too ambitious. They were right. We are ambitious. Ambitious enough to cross galaxies. Ambitious enough to build new civilizations. And ambitious enough to return and help the people who tried to destroy us. That's what makes us human, not our technology, not our ships, our compassion. Our refusal to give up on making things better. The Council feared that ambition, but ambition is what the universe needs most. The old admiral closed his eyes, content. He'd led humanity's exodus from certain death. He'd guided them to a new home. And now he could rest knowing that humanity's story wasn't over. It was just beginning again. In the Milky Way, the Forgotten Ones received a message transmitted across the galaxy. Soldier Jaewon read it with tears streaming down his face. We're coming home. Hold on, help is coming. This time we come as equals, ready to build together what we couldn't build before. The new dawn begins today. Jaewon looked at his team, the humans who'd sacrificed 40 years to protect the innocent. We did it. We kept the dream alive long enough. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest ambition was never conquest. It was hope. And hope once kindled can never truly be extinguished. 15 years after humanity vanished, a single ship drifted through the void between galaxies. The eternal hope wasn't much to look at. She'd been built from salvaged parts with engines that rattled and life support that wheezed like an old man climbing stairs. But she was flying, and that's all that mattered to the 200 souls aboard. Navigator Dongha sat in the pilot's chair, watching the navigation display with tired eyes. The journey from the Milky Way to Andromeda was supposed to be impossible. Without dimensional drives, it would take millions of years at conventional speeds. Even with the fastest hyperdrives the galaxy could build, they were looking at a 30-year journey. They'd been traveling for 15 years already. Halfway there. Course correction in 3 minutes, announced Echo, the ship's AI companion. Echo had been designed by humans before the Exodus, an advanced artificial intelligence programmed to preserve human culture and knowledge. We're still following the dimensional wake signatures, but they're getting fainter. Dongha nodded. Humanity had left breadcrumbs for anyone brave enough to follow. Faint traces of dimensional travel, scattered supply caches hidden in deep space, and encrypted messages pointing the way forward. It was like following a trail through a dark forest hoping you didn't get lost. Behind him, Observer Rin was teaching a class of children in the ship's common area. Rin had been born on this ship 7 years into the journey. She'd never seen Earth or any planet. Her whole life had been corridors and recycled air and the endless black of intergalactic space. Today we're learning about old Earth, Rin said to the dozen children sitting cross-legged before her. Half were human. The other half were aliens from species who'd chosen to follow humanity into the unknown. Can anyone tell me what the sky looked like? A small Falari child raised her hand. Blue, because of the atmosphere scattering light. That's right, Rin smiled. She'd learned about Earth's blue sky from Echo's lessons, from old videos and photographs. She'd never seen it herself, but she dreamed about it every night. And what about the oceans? Water, shouted a human boy. So much water you could see it from space. Rin felt a pang of longing. She'd never seen an ocean, never felt rain, never walked on ground that wasn't metal deck plating. But someday, if they reached humanity's new home, maybe she would. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Heywan was treating Tishen, an avian scientist from a species called the Kexlar. Tishen's people were dying from a plague that swept through their worlds 2 years after humanity left. Human medical technology could have cured it easily, but the humans had taken that technology with them. So Tishen made a choice. She gathered her research, said goodbye to her dying world, and joined the followers. That's what they called themselves, the coalition of humans and aliens making the impossible journey to find humanity. They were following hope across 2 million light-years of empty space. The medicine is helping, Heywan said, checking Tishen's vital signs. But we're running low on supplies. We have enough for maybe 3 more years. Then I'll pray we find them in 2, Tishen replied. Her feathers rustled with what Heywan had learned was anxiety. My people are dying. Every day we delay is another 1,000 dead. Heywan wanted to promise they'd make it in time, but she'd learned not to make promises she couldn't keep. Space was vast and uncaring. Humanity might be anywhere in Andromeda, or they might have moved on to somewhere else entirely. The followers might be chasing ghosts, but they had to try. The journey wasn't easy. Several times they'd nearly lost the trail. Twice they'd run into debris fields from unknown conflicts. Massive battlefields frozen in the void between galaxies. Once they'd detected another ship following parallel to them, always staying just out of sensor range. Commander Vokrath had been hunting them for 12 years. The Council extremist had stolen a warship and a crew of loyalists, obsessed with destroying humanity once and for all. He'd followed the followers across half the universe, always 3 steps behind, always searching. Dongha knew Vokrath was out there somewhere. The question was whether he'd find humanity before or after the followers did. Years passed slowly in the void. Children grew up knowing only the ship. Adults grew old dreaming of a destination they might never reach. Some died along the way, their bodies committed to space with prayers that their sacrifice meant something. Echo kept them connected to their humanity. The AI taught classes on Earth's history, played music from before the Exodus, told stories about humanity's achievements and failures. For the children born on the ship, Echo was their link to a world they'd never seen. Why did humanity leave? Young Rin asked Echo one day. She was 12 now, old enough to understand complicated answers. Because the galaxy wasn't ready for them, Echo replied. The AI's holographic form flickered thoughtfully. Humanity advanced quickly. They saw problems and solved them. They met new species and tried to help them. But the Council saw that ambition as dangerous. Were they dangerous? Every species capable of greatness is also capable of terrible things. Humans knew this. They'd nearly destroyed themselves before reaching the stars. But they learned from their mistakes. They chose to be better. The Council didn't trust that choice, so humanity ran away? No, Echo said firmly. Humanity made a strategic retreat. They left to survive, to grow, to build something better. And they left behind people like your parents to prove that human ideals survive even when humans are gone. Rin's parents had been forgotten ones, humans who stayed in the Milky Way to help refugees. They'd sent Rin with the followers when she was a baby, wanting her to have a future. Rin barely remembered them, but she knew they were heroes. After 25 years of travel, the Eternal Hope sensors detected something impossible. Dongha, you need to see this, Echo said urgently. The navigator rushed to his station. On the screen, energy readings bloomed across the void. Massive structures orbited a cluster of stars at the edge of Andromeda, pulling power from the suns themselves. Dyson swarms, dozens of them. The energy signature is unmistakably human, Echo confirmed. We found them. Dongha felt tears streaming down his face. 25 years. An entire generation born and raised in the void. Species following a dream across impossible distances, and they'd finally found it. But before they could celebrate, alarms blared across the ship. Another vessel had dropped out of hyperspace nearby. Weapons hot and shields raised. Commander Vokrath had caught up. This is Commander Vokrath to the human vessel. You've led me right to them. For this, I'll make your deaths quick. The extremist voice dripped with hatred. Today, humanity finally answers for their crimes. Dongha stared at the tactical display. Vokrath's warship was old but powerful, easily capable of destroying the Eternal Hope. And between them and humanity's new civilization was 3 days of travel at maximum speed. They'd come so far. They couldn't fail now. Echo broadcast a message on all human frequencies. Tell them we're here. Tell them we need help. Dongha activated the ship's failing shields. And tell them we're not alone. As Vokrath's warship powered up its weapons, Dongha had one final thought. Please, let humanity be listening. Please let them care enough to help the people who followed them into darkness. The warship fired, and then the stars came alive with light.